Are we still? Can I keep going? Okay. All right. So, so that's basically how I feel. I feel like taking a chance is always good because things always happen. I mean, every time I've done a fair, and it's not always for the money. Really, it isn't. It's just the people you meet and the people who you become in contact with, the galleries you get to show with, the places you get to go. Every time I've done a fair, something's happened. And it's always been positive, you know. But don't go into a fair expecting to sell out, and don't go into a fair expecting anything to happen, because it's possible that nothing will happen. You know, you have to really go in there with very low expectations. So anyway, those are some of the pros. Of course, the other pros are that you sell work and you make money, and everybody wants to do that. But that's just like an afterthought. So now I'll go into the cons. A lot of the fairs that I do are fairs where I am like an independent artist and I'm not going with a gallery. If you have a gallery that'll take you, that's great. But most people don't, so you're on your own. So one of the big things is that they cost a lot of money. It depends on the size booth you're gonna take, and also the good art fairs are becoming more competitive. There are a lot of art fairs out there, but they're not all the same. So you really have to visit the fair before you apply and make sure it's a reputable one, because a lot of times these art fairs just want to fill up walls and get you money, and you do have to be aware of that. But the cons are that if you're willing to spend the money and do all the work, there are no guarantees. It is a great way to get a lot of work done, I'll tell you that. It always motivates me. I mean, when I know I have a fair coming up, I do a ton of work, frame work, finish work, put the edges, clean the edges, and I do think that having work that's finished and appropriate is helpful. Like, I think you should consider how your booth is gonna look. So let me finish with the cons. Okay, so some of the other cons, again, the main thing is like really know which galleries you're going to, which fairs you're gonna do. Like I said, there are a lot of fairs out there, and the fairs are just growing because even galleries are beginning to like give up their physical space to do fairs, because that's where all the people are, and that's a good thing. But when there are a lot of fairs that are in it for the money, and they know how artists can be very gullible and kind of trusting, and I've been burned, and just be careful, that's all. Be careful, do your homework. And if you have any fairs or questions, I know about a couple, you can email me and I'll tell you what I know about them. Okay, so then the next part is the booth itself. I think that people who take their own booth tend to do better. I feel that it shows your body of work. It shows what you can do. And in your booth, I think it's really good to have a variety of sizes and a variety of prices and prints or unframed originals, larger pieces. I tend to have a wall where I do like 12 by 12 or 11 by 14. And I keep the price pretty low because I want to move them. And as I move them, I just have other ones under the table, and then I put them up. And you're not making a ton of money, but you're moving the work, and people see that, they like it. It's a good feeling when things sell, even if it's a small thing. And then surprisingly, I've sold a lot of big work as well, so you never know. So it's important that you have many different size pieces, but also try to make your booth look organized. A lot of times the fairs will say, don't hang too much work. And so some people will just hang like one piece on each wall. And I don't believe in that, because you're paying a lot of money for this booth, and if that's all you've got, then But I think it's important to navigate the way your booth is so that it looks very organized. Like I try to do it symmetrically, or if I have like two pieces with the same frame, with the same size, and they'll work out from there. So the booth looks like it was kind of like thought out in advance. It's not just like haphazard. And again, I think it's important to have nicely framed work and nice little labels, and everything should look very professional. And I think the other thing that I like about doing fairs, and in my experience of being at the fair, as opposed to giving the work to a gallery and letting them sell it, is just that it's so nice to interact with people, and people really want to know the story, and they really want to know about the work, and it means a lot to them. And I think that the reason why people do well at fairs is because the artists are accessible, and the buyers then have a story to tell with the work that they bring home. So, you know, give it a try. It's not the only thing you can do, but it certainly is one way to get your work out there. And you know, I encourage you all to give it a try. See what, you know, give it a try and see if you like it. Okay? Yeah, I mean, you know, I think that I tend to lowball my prices, and I have to bring them up a little bit, but I do the 12 by 12s for like 300. And then I have a lot of 24 by 30s that I'll sell for like 1,800. And then I have like 36 by 48s that I'll sell for like 5,000. And that's a low ball. I mean, there are people that are selling work for 15,000. And, you know, I know that I probably should charge more, but my house is full of art. I like to paint. And I would rather get it out of my house than just like clutter my whole entire existence up with art. So I'm a little, you know, I'm a little lowballing it. And also there are some fairs that cost more, and there are other fairs that take commission, so you have to take that into account as well. Okay, so for 14C, you have a choice of sizes, and I forget what size. I think I took a 30 linear feet, which was 10 feet, 10 feet, 10 feet, 10 feet. Now, I like 14C the best. I felt like there was an integrity in the group, and it had a different vibe. So that booth, 10 by 10 by 10, I think was like 3,500. But again, they don't take a commission. And also, New Jersey is interesting. It's different than Brooklyn, but well, the first 2 days, Eileen showed up and Barbara, and nobody came to my booth, and I was wondering why, because they didn't have an arrow going to the train station where my work was. They had like this big tent, and then there was this little doorway to go into this beautiful train station that we were in, but there was no direction, so people weren't coming in. So we had to talk to them, and they had to put arrows, and then that Saturday and Sunday, a lot more people showed up and came, and you know, it was good.
We're going to come back to questions.
Okay.
Because Elise will be here. Oh, Elise Lowe.
Elise Lovelson.
Yes.
Okay,
thank you. So, Elise will be here to answer questions, and if there's time at the end. But now Gail is on the screen. We can turn around.
Hi all. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah, you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Elise, I'm also going to talk about 14C. And I'll also talk very briefly about the Affordable Art Fair. I was once in the Affordable Art Fair with a gallery, and nothing of mine sold, so I never did it again. I've participated in 14C 4 times. And what is important to know is that 14C is a very young art fair. It's only been around for 5 years. And if there's A word that I would add to what Elise said is fluidity. The locations do change, and the art fair is still finding its identity. And last year, it was at a train station. The year before that, it was at an armory. The year before that, it was at a gallery. And then 2 years, it was at a hotel. So there's a little bit of it still finding its way. That being said, it is a much different art fair and a different feeling than New York art fairs. The person who headed it up has a real strong commitment to artists, so it's more artist centered. And I guess I'll also talk about some of the pros and cons. It's 14C comes out of Jersey City, and it's called 14C because when you're on the Garden State or the Turnpike, it's the 14C exit that you take. And Robinson Holloway was the chair of it for years, but now there's new people who are heading it up. So I'll start with some of the cons, which may be a little bit different from Elise's and some similar. It's absolutely exhausting. You are on for 3 to 4 days nonstop. So what I mean by that is you have to set up, and that usually happens on a Thursday. You either hire someone to do the setup or you do it yourself. So there's physical involvement. Friday night, there's a VIP hour where curators are supposed to come. Sometimes there's curators, sometimes there's friends and colleagues. And then you go all day Saturday and all day Sunday, and then you break down. I don't mean that you literally break down, but you break down the booth. So I think you need to be prepared that it's an enormous amount of physical energy. What I did was I had a colleague of mine who was very gracious and wanted to get into the art scene, and he did a lot of the physical work. I also had an intern who helped me. You need to have people there to help you out, because if you're on for 8 hours, how do you eat? How do you take a bathroom break? So if you're going to do 14C, get other people involved to help you. On the positive side, I think that the artists really develop a network with each other. You're kind of in the trenches together for these 4 days, and you get to meet artists that you never would have otherwise. There's galleries, and for example, there's been a Japanese gallery that's been coming for the whole life of the art fair. There's been galleries from Germany. There is a gallery from New York, a very well-known gallery, and I'm just not remembering its name right now, that has come for the last couple of years. There's New Jersey galleries as well. So I'll tell you some of the positives for me personally, and then my sense of talking with other colleagues of mine. And I'm located in New Jersey, and I know Robinson, and I really know the art fair, that particular art fair, very well. I have sold work. Most people that I have spoken to who have done it every single year sell work in about the $300 range. I don't have work that's small. I tend to work large. So I've sold as much as 3,000. And when I've had a booth, I've covered my expenses and then had profit. Another positive thing that's come from it for me personally and for other people is there was a solo show that I was offered based on curators who had been at the art fair. That's not unusual. I don't know if people are familiar with Ivory Brown Gallery. I don't know it. It's a New York gallery, but several people from the art fair have gotten shows offered by a couple of New York galleries. So there are some opportunities. You may be sitting there for hours. People will definitely come and ask you about your work and talk with you about your work. There's no guarantee that you're going to sell, but people do sell. The last couple of, okay, so 2 years ago, I was in the showcase, and that's only for New Jersey artists, and that's juried, and you get in for free once you've been juried. So I talked with my colleagues who had booths that year and the following year, and they were a little bit discouraged. They hadn't sold as much as they hoped they would. But we were just coming out of the pandemic, so who knows how much of that was affected. Um, when I did do it for a booth, I had a 9 by 10 booth. It was expensive. I'm remembering it was maybe around 15 to 2000, but again, I covered expenses through my sales. Um, it's fun. I mean, there's no question. Elise, you mentioned enjoying it. I mean, you're going to network with a lot of other artists, some you know, some you don't know. People will ask you about your work. And I think, and I didn't do it last year, which was a choice. I did not get into the showcase, which became more competitive. And I didn't want to do the physical work that was involved in a booth. And this year, I probably won't do a booth again, just because it takes an enormous amount of time and energy. I'm not discouraging people at all. I've encouraged, I think, Pamela, I encouraged to do it. Just be aware that you're really committing lots of time, and it's extremely important to show your work professionally. And a mistake that I made was the first time I had a booth, I thought, oh, I want it to be like a gallery because there's going to be curators. So I put 3 large pieces up. That was not the way to go. So the next day I got some mechanism that I could put smaller works in. The smallest work that I've ever put in was 30 by 24, which was framed, so it was larger than that. And I think that's about it. And maybe I'll be around for the question period. I'm not really sure. And please feel free to email me if you have any questions, because I really know the art fair at 14C very well. Okay, so good luck to everyone.
Thank you, that was great.
You're welcome.
Gail Winberry. That was Gail Winberry.
From New Jersey.
And I believe Mike, is Mike in the house? Hello, Mike Krasowitz.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, good to see you.
Nice to see everybody. If I'm going too long, you tell me, okay? And I'll stop talking. I've done a lot of art fairs. The first one I did was the Fountain Art Fair, which was in the Armory downtown. I think I was with a couple of people from the Artist Circle, and the Artist Circle had their own booth called Hullabaloo, if I have the name correctly. And that was, I think, in maybe 2013 or something like that. I've done the Select Art Fair, which was in New York at the old Dia Arts Center. I did a fair in Barcelona that was artist run, and I've done the Aqua Fair Art Fair that was part of Art Basel. I've done that 3 or 4 times, and I've done other things with that gallery, with the gallery that did Aqua Art Fair. I did the Toronto Art Fair with them, and I also did Art Hamptons. With artist run group, I did a Los Angeles and Houston Art Fair, and I did the Four Heads Art Fair a few times on Governor's Island. I think I've made every mistake you can make, and I've learned a lot about how art fairs work and what to expect from art fairs. My experience is that after doing many fairs and having all different kinds of responses, I've sold some work. One gallerist said something really interesting. He said that he doesn't go to art fairs to sell. He goes to art fairs because there are going to be 20,000 people coming through the door. And that out of that 20,000 people, if he can get a mailing list of like 30 or 40 different potential clients, and then spend a year working with them for the year, and the next year they're going to become clients and they're going to start buying work. So he uses it as an opportunity to make relationships with potential clients. I mean, you're always going to get impulse buys. Somebody's going to go in and buy something. But I think what he was saying was that, this is a long-term game, and you want to you make a relationship, they see a work, and then over the next year, he would send emails to them saying, listen, that artist you really liked, you really liked her work, this is what she's doing now. And she's working on this new piece. And when you come to the next year, I'm going to keep one of her pieces in the back. I'm not going to put it on the wall. And when you come, if you want, I'll take it out and I'll show it to you. So he was developing his clients, using the art fairs to develop clients. And I thought that was I wish I had known that from the very beginning, because I didn't think about that. It's like, how do you get, once they come into the booth, how do you get their email? And then how do you use your marketing over that course of the next year? And another friend told me this years ago, is you want to go back every year, because if you go back every year, then those people will come back and they become long-term clients. And that's what you really want. And another thing I learned, and I'll stop after this, is that I think it's very difficult as an artist to do all the work in terms of making the work and selling the work. When you're standing in the booth and you're talking about what you do, making the sale and establishing the price and establishing these people as long-term clients is very difficult. That's the gallerist's job. And without that, without having kind of a third person, I think it's very challenging, at least for me. I know I can tell you stories of things that I definitely screwed up the sale of the work because I was talking about it. You know, they wanted me to talk about my inspiration for the work, not the price. You know, and once it got to that, I think I screwed it up. And I've done that a few times, not just once or twice. So those are my observations about it. I think the fairs are really cool, but you have to think of it as part of your marketing strategy, as much as you think about it as like going to something and somebody's going to buy something for a couple $100 or a few $1,000, which is great. But you want them to be clients, and you want them to tell their friends about this really cool artist or something like that. And that's how you build your reputations, you know, in the art world, I think. That's it.
Thank you, that was really great. And I think, Pamela, did you want to add something? Okay, let's see.
We asked the question,
Let Pamela speak and then we'll get to questions, thanks. Which mic should she use?
use that one, yeah. Is it working?
Hi, can everybody hear me well? Good. So I did only one fair. It was the Art Fair 14C, based on just having known that Gwyneth had done it, and Gail gave me a lot of great advice. I liked it because it was less commercial. The booth costs are actually less than other fairs for the size booths that they provide. They don't take a commission. All of these things were very positive reasons to do that fair. And I had seen the fair at MANA and liked the quality of the work and thought that they had been able to attract a good audience. So when I did it, it was at Jersey City at the Armory. It became a different animal when I did it. First of all, I'll say I decided to go all out. I took the biggest booth. I presented my work in a very complete way, I thought, sort of like the galleries do at the big fairs. I had small work, medium, and large. I had all the price points, and I thought I really had checked all the boxes. What I didn't realize was that year that I did it, it really became more New Jersey fair. The people who ran it really promoted the New Jersey artists over the New York artists. That didn't work well for me. Here I was, somebody who had invested a lot of money in the largest booth, and I got absolutely no support. In other words, they didn't feature me, they didn't come to my studio, I'm from Brooklyn, and I felt left out of that promotion. When the fair happened, people came through. It wasn't as well attended as I would have liked to have it be. People came through, looked at my booth, and hemmed and, awed at the artwork and the colors, and did I take LSD to get these colors? And, it reminded of an avatar. And for those of you who don't know my work, it's a lot about imagined underground landscapes, which is also not a particularly familiar subject, and yet people were interested, a lot of nature-loving people. I sold nothing. I made a huge investment in a big booth, paid to get all this stuff out there. It was exhausting. I had people helping me, thank goodness, for free, but I sold nothing. Lots of interest, people considered things, they came back. I kept seeing people pass my booth with prints under their arms that cost like 25 bucks, and I just could not do prints. I had original artwork at 200, that was my lowest price, and yet nobody seemed to be able to like buy anything. And for me, I felt the audience wasn't right. It wasn't an art buying audience. And perhaps those art buyers went to the galleries at the show, but they didn't go around and really investigate the artists at the show. So the upshot is I will never do that again. I realized I needed to really study who my audience is, and if the art fairs don't provide it, then the art fairs are not the right place. So, you know your work, and you can just, think about that. And after that experience, I began to look at contexts that were more about environment and show my work in those contexts, and I've had better success in those situations. So that's my art fair experience. So it's a warning. And Mike said something very important. It's a long-term thing. If I were to have done it again, I wouldn't have gone big the first time. I would have started small, so I would have had enough money to do again the next year. I don't have that sustained, money to spend to be able to do that every year. So I think, that would be it for art fairs, unless, of course, a gallery shows me. And then I can say I have a lot of respect for galleries now that I didn't have before, because they really work it. They have the network of people. They have that long-term strategy that is very hard for the artists to sustain and also make work. I did make a lot of work for the show, and that is a good outcome. I had a lot of work to show and submit things to for the following year. So there you go.
Great, thank you. Lots of different points of view. Did we have just a few minutes for questions? Mariana?
Thank you. Marianne, Barcelona. This is a question for Mike. I was interested that you said that they want to hear the artist talk about inspiration and not price, and that you messed up on price. How can one not mess up on price when you're the only person at the booth? Do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, that's a complicated question. I was just thinking about something else somebody said. Where if you're on TikTok or any of these social media things, if you're talking about how you made the art, this is what they said. If you're talking about how you make the art, then you're talking to other artists. If you're talking about your inspiration for your work, you're talking to the audience that's the potential customers for your work, which I thought was kind of interesting. But in terms of price and things like that, I think that I'll tell you what I did that was wrong. I tried to discount the price, because when I talked to the client, there was one client, and I tried to I made a price, and then I was like, well, I can discount it. And I was like, the people that are collectors, they don't really care about price. What they want to know, they have money and they're going to buy the work. Don't worry about it. You choose the price that you want for the work, and just leave it at that. Don't try to discount it. Don't try to play games about it. That's the only thing I can think of.
Do you have something to add to that, Elise?
I just think it's important to have your price list out for them to see it. And then if they want to buy it, they see the price.
They'll see the price. If you really want to discount it, you can go down 10%, but don't give it away. And this way you don't have to deal with price. Also, I just wanted to say to Pamela, I was at the art fair that you were, and I thought your booth was beautiful. And I really hope you don't get discouraged, not do it again. I don't know the rhyme or reason why people buy things or don't buy things, but please keep it in your heart and keep going. Don't let it turn you away from all art fairs in general. Maybe next time will be different.
Thank you, Elise. That's a good message for all of us in everything we're doing.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for the presentation. My question to anybody who's done art fairs, I've done 24 of them around the country. Some of the art fairs that I was at got a percentage of the sales. And I don't know if any of you have had any experience of that, but the sales had to all go through the show, you know, organization. They did the credit card sales and all, and took their percentage, and then we got the money afterwards. And I don't know, I've had really good experiences in Vegas and Florida, overseas. Anyway.
Oh, so the other art fair, I've done affordable, the other art fair, and I'm actually doing a fair this weekend in Sands Point, Long Island, if anybody is around. It's at the Guggenheim's summer house. But the other art fair takes 15%. Now they're gonna start taking 18%. They do the sales. A lot of the other fairs, 14C does not take money. You have to do your own sales, so you need a Square or a PayPal or Venmo or something. Some people don't mind having the fair take the money because, like Michael said, you don't have to deal with it. You just give them the work, you write it up on a receipt, they fill it out, they come back, they're paid, and you give them the work. It just varies, you know, so, yeah. Yes? Do you find some fairs more professionally organized than others? Absolutely. Are some fairs more professionally organized than others? I just want to tell you about, when you do fairs, then all the fairs start sending you emails about doing their fairs. And I just want to tell you 2 fairs to watch out for, Superfine and Clio. Keep your eye, I went to both of them, and I just want to tell you, the work was like, it was like 5 artists were on top of each other. It was very unprofessional, and I got like so claustrophobic I had to leave. I couldn't even be there. So all art fairs are totally different, and you really have to go visit them and see. Clio was really bad. And Superfine, some people do all right with it. The one in Miami is better than the one in New York, but I think they just take anyone who will pay, honestly. If you're willing to fork over the money, you're in. And, you know, it's tough to go into these curated fairs where you can get rejected, but it also means that the quality is better. And some of the work I've seen at some of these fairs really were just like, I couldn't believe it, that they were even there.
Okay, wait.
I do that, yeah, that's the one I've done the most.
Okay, I wanna, because
The other art fair.
we're kind of out of time, but I wanted to see any burning questions from the people.
Yeah, there's. Go with your question. Can you say it into the mic? I don't know if she can hear me. Pearl, do you have a question?
Yeah, no, I want to comment on what Pamela was saying about the 14C fair. So I was at that fair as well. I was showing for the first time with a group, the Fluid Media Group. And so we had 2 groups that had large, good-sized booths and lots of work, and sales were horrible there. I think, but I have to say, a friend of mine was also in that fair. As a matter of fact, I'm going to sponsor her for membership. She's shown consistently with 14C and has done well. And so her strategy was to really present a very clear message about her work. There was a consistency about it. There were different sizes and different prices, and she also had prints. So it was practically for whatever amount of money you could spend, there was a product that she had, and she also very friendly personality. She put together all these elements and her work was abstract. Sometimes you think abstract work doesn't appeal to a larger audience, but it really did work for her in that 14C. I would go back to 14C. I would do a booth at some point. I liked the energy there. The people were friendly, but they do have this whole thing with every year practically changing locations. I didn't go to the last one, but I have a feeling that's probably where they're going to have it because it just has better traffic. When they had their fair at 14C, when it was off of the New Jersey Turnpike, that was incredible. There was a lot of sales happening there. And, you know, I have to say it was easy for people from the suburbs to get to that fair. And I think that's where the money was. So that's what my opinion from the 14th.
I think we have to, it's after 11:30, we need to formally close the meeting.